So, welcome everyone. In this session, we are going to discuss the different flow of blood from the parts of the body. So, according to the heart's uh, flow, there consists of upper body. The upper body consists of the head and the upper limbs, and the lower body consists of trunks and limbs. So, as you can see, from the lower body and from the trunks and limbs enters through the IVC, inferior vena cava. So through the inferior vena cava, deoxygenated blood enters from the trunks and limbs, and from the upper body it enters through the right atrium through the superior vena cava. So this upper body consists of head and the upper limbs. So it enters through the SVC, and lower limbs and part of the trunk. Blood enters through the inferior vena cava into the right atrium and right atrium consequently. So the deoxygenated blood enter through the SVC and IVC into the right atrium, and it goes to the right ventricle. So there is a valve between right atrium and right ventricle, which is tricuspid valve. So this blood then goes inside the pulmonary valve. So the pulmonary valve goes only to the lungs or the pulmonary artery. The deoxygenated blood flows from the right atrium to the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve to the pulmonary valve to the pulmonary artery to the lungs. So you can see the two arrow to the lung, this arrow and this arrow. So it flows to the lungs. To after the lungs, the blood flows through inside the pulmonary veins. You can see the pulmonary veins. Pulmonary veins is also situated in posterior to the superior vena cava also, and pulmonary artery and aorta. So this pulmonary vein, the lungs purified oxygenated blood enters into the pulmonary veins from the lungs via pulmonary veins, and it enters to the mitral valve into the left ventricle, and after the left ventricle it reaches from the left atrium to the mitral valve, through the mitral valve to the left ventricle to through the aorta. So through the aorta it enters right through the upper head and lower head by the ascending aorta, goes straight to the upper end and lower end. In the aorta we can see three arteries. The three arteries that goes to the head and upper limbs. Which are the arteries? They are left common carotid artery, left subclavian artery, and bronchiocephalic trunk. So left common carotid artery, left subclavian artery, and bronchiocephalic artery. Bronchiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, in between bronchio and left clavian artery. The left clavian is in the left side, and the bronchiocephalic trunk in the right side. So bronchiocephalic, left subclavian artery, and in between the left common carotid artery. Next is the arc of aorta is also seen. So the descending aorta, you can see this point. descending aorta goes to the trunk and limbs. So the descending aorta blood flows to the trunk and limbs. So next is the relationship between the left phrenic nerves C3, C4 and C5 passes anterior to lung root. The right left phrenic nerves C4, C3 and C5 passes anterior to the lung root. So we know about the connection of lung root and right and left phrenic nerves. So it passes through the lung root. Phrenic nerves passes through the lung root. So you can see the trachea, you can see the right vagus, you can see the left vagus, you can see the common carotid artery which is between left clavian, subclavian and bronchiocephalic trunk. So you can see the left vagus is slide to the left common carotid artery and right vagus is through the this subclavian artery. So this nerves, phrenic nerve, left phrenic nerve and right phrenic nerves passes anterior to the lungs. So it closes to the anterior portion of the lungs. Next they are saying that the right and left vagus passes posterior to the lungs. So there are vagus and phrenic nerves. Vagus is posterior to the lungs and phrenic is anterior to the lungs. So in the phrenic there is 3 type of phrenic nerves, C3, C4 and C5, which name can be occurred like left phrenic, right phrenic and one is C3 and C4 and C5. So right phrenic and left phrenic is seen, left vagus and right vagus is seen. So we have to understand that the right vagus and left vagus go posterior to the lungs and right phrenic and left phrenic nerves passes anterior to the lungs. You can see in this picture the anterior part of the heart. So this is ascending aorta. You can see the arc of aorta. In arc of aorta you can see the middle artery which is left common carotid artery, and the right side it contains the bronchiocephalic trunk and the left side it contains left subclavian artery. Left subclavian artery in between left common carotid artery and it's a bronchocephalic trunk. So there is 3 arteries that goes with the ascending aorta, and there is a descending aorta going down, and there is pulmonary trunk, and there is left pulmonary artery, the right pulmonary artery, and you can see the fat in coronary sulcus, fat in anterior interventricular sulcus. So these are the relationship of nerves to the heart.